Hi guys, Gary Wale from Nord Market and Canoe UK. Today what I want to do is do a little bit of a review on two knives I've received through the post recently from Svord. I'd like to look at the Svord Peasant and the Svord General Purpose Outdoors knife. Both of these knives are really good knives. I'm really liking them. I've had them for a little while now, a couple of weeks, and I've tried them out quite a lot. And they're meeting all my expectations, and for the price, which the pair together retail at something like about £45 or something along those lines, I don't think you're going to find much better knives on the market. The difference between the Svord knives and say the Moras is the fact that the Svord knives, the blades are convex, not a flat grind like Moras. But in general usage, they seem to be able to just cope with and do everything that you demand of them, or you demand of a Mora, say. And at the moment I'm in a bit of a mindset as to the fact that a convex blade is probably a bit more traditional, in as much as I think that in the past our ancestors wouldn't have necessarily have had access to mechanically made, absolutely supremely flat sharpening stones, etc, etc. So at some point in history the convexed edge would probably be more common than the flat grind. And this is one of the reasons why I'm quite getting into enjoying using these knives. Now, we look at each knife individually. So the first one we look at is the Svord Peasant knife. Yep. As you can see, it's an old design. Apparently it's based on a design from Bohemia in it's like 600 or 700 years old. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what I've read somewhere. But it's a one-handed opening knife. Now, I'm a left-handed, so a lot of one-handed opening knives I have problems with because the design is designed for right-handed people, but this knife is ambidextrous, so you can use it whether you're left or right-handed. The easiest way to open it is the way it comes out of the pocket. So you draw out your pocket that way, so you open it that way. You take the knife, you take the tang in the palm of your hand, and using your thumb pressure, press on the handle and bring it over. Yeah, so you've got the knife open, and then you can use it. The tang itself sits in the palm of your hand, so it's like a lock, but obviously there is no lock. The whole lock is the grip. Okay, to close it, I'll put a little lanyard on there, and I'll show you why in a second. But to close it, all we do is the same thing: pull up the tang, flick the handle up, and close it. So to open, using a thumb alone, yeah, thumb pressure, press the handle, bring it over. We've opened the knife. We can use it where we want to do it. Then if we want to close it one-handed, we can still do that using our fingers. Yeah, just to close the blade. The lanyard itself isn't so that I can wear it around my wrist in case I drop it. The lanyard, I'm thinking, if I wanted to create a stick tang or create a more permanent lock, by taking the lanyard and twisting it on itself, like so. A bit hard to show you doing it that way, but I'll do it this way so I can get it done. It's got to be tight because it's got to hold the blade. Like so. Yeah. We then create a lock that means the blade isn't going to go anywhere. Now if I was to tighten up a little bit further, it'd be obviously solid. Or I could bring that along, slide that all along, and secure it over the blade. But it then means that my blade is locked in place. There's no risk of that closing on my fingers because the lanyard's holding it tight. And all I've done is where it twists over there, it creates a bit of a hitch. Yep. So that's what the lanyard's on there for. Also, the lanyard's on there. That's easy to put out in my pocket, and by using a lanyard, it makes it easier to close as well. Should I drop the knife, especially in snow, having a lanyard attached to it also makes it easier to find. And I've got a little glow in the dark tip on there, so that if I want to find the knife at night, I can find the knife. Okay, so that's the Svord Peasant. Yeah, we'll look at using it in a second, but I think overall it's a really good knife. As I say, convex edge. The blade itself is about 3 inches, it's the size of the palm of my hand. Carbon steel, and at the moment I'm really enjoying using it. I'm using this knife is my permanent carry now. It's in my pocket all the time. I'm using it for everything. from cooking to whittling to all stuff, and it's quite good. The other knife I want to look at then, guys, is the outdoor utility knife. Now again, you'll see nice long lanyard on there. Again, that's not so I can put the loop around my wrist, so if I drop it in snow, then I can easily find the knife. It also gives me spare paracord should I need it. Okay. The outdoor utility knife's got a large, I class this as an industrial type handle. It's a sort of knife you'd expect to find on a butcher's knife, a work tool. Yeah, and obviously a carbon steel convex edge blade. Again, it's a really good knife. I'm really enjoying using it. It's comfortable in my hand, it feels comfortable in my hand, and it's a really good grip. The lanyard on this is slightly different. You see there's a loop there. Now, it's not so, again, I fit my hand through it, it's not just too small. The idea of that lanyard is if I put it through a couple of my fingers, when I'm using the knife, say again in snow on say like a winter ice course where there's snow, if I drop the knife this way, I've still got hold of it. But I'm not putting the loop around my wrist so that if I fall or have an accident and I want to discard the knife, I can just drop that loop through my fingers. The loops around my wrist, the knife's going to hang down on my wrist. If I say I've had a fall, there's a risk of the knife then injuring me. So by just having the loops that goes for a couple of fingers, then when you drop it, you've still got control of it. It's a safety feature, okay? But the idea is the long lanyard is there, so if I drop it in the snow, even if I can't find the knife's gone into snow, there's a chance by digging around, I'll find the paracord, okay? The only downside I think with that knife is the sheath. The sheath it comes with is it's a pancake sheath, but it's coated in like a black wax, and it's literally just drop the knife in the sheath and it rattles about and it's loose and everything else. So what I do is I boiled the sheath off, put the sheath into hot water, brought all the wax off, then I wet formed the sheath so that it actually fits the knife more comfortably. The knife's a safer fit. The paracord on there is just so I've got extra paracord. Then the knife's now a friction fit, and the knife's in the sheath, it's not going anywhere, it's nice and secure. Yeah, so the downside, or the thing that lets this knife down, is the sheath. But I think these retail at something like £23. So for £23 you're getting a good quality leather sheath. You just need to invest a bit of time in the sheath itself. Okay, so that's the Svord knife, or Svord general purpose knife, and the Svord Peasant. Now, for the Svord Peasant, the main use I can think of for this knife in a bushcraft environment would be as a utility knife, in as much as we'd use it for everything. But what I want to show you today, and it's not in all sorts, but just to give you an idea, and literally just run the blade down. Let's take that bit off there first to clean it off. And then literally, it's just how well the Svord Peasant carves feathers. So we can carve a feather stick, or we can carve a spoon, say, then the knife's going to do everything else we want it to do. Okay, so to carve a feather, all I've done, I've just split a bit of wood off there, battening. You can batten with this knife, by the way. I'll show you that first, just to demonstrate that you can batten with it. We've most found the piece of wood on the planes. This is not an ideal piece of wood. It's curved. You just run the blade down. So that we start producing curls. And this is where I think, to a degree, the convex edge is better. You see the nice light curls. Yeah. Now obviously in reality we'd be doing this over where we have a fireplace, so all the curls that come off. I apologise for the wind today, guys, it's a very windy day. All the curls that come off, all in the fire. Yeah. So we can use this knife and it will make fantastic curls for a feather stick. Okay. As I say, generally speaking, it's good for everything. One of the things I'm really liking about this knife with a convex edge is to sharpen it. So far, all I've had to do is strop it on a leather strop with a bit of auto sole, and that's put the edge back on there, so it's shaving sharp, razor sharp. So really good knife, low maintenance, easy to maintain, easy to sharpen, and not very expensive. I'd be very interested if there's anyone with enough knowledge who'd care to comment whether the fact that it doesn't technically lock makes this UK legal. It's a 3-inch blade with no lock, so in theory it should be UK legal, but the lock, as I say, is your hand. So would that make that UK legal? Because that's what's keeping the blade open. Bit of a grey area on that one, for my own views. But if anyone's got any more experience of these matters than me, let me know, because I'll be interested to find out. Okay guys, so the next knife we're going to look at then is the general purpose knife. As I say, it's a nice big robust knife, convex edge, it's strong. The plastic handle means the whole knife can be cleaned, so if we're using it for say butchering game, we can make it hygienically clean after use, which is fantastic. Obviously those who've seen videos before know my views on leather sheaths. If they did a K-Dex or some sort of similar sheath option, I would go for a plastic sheath over a leather sheath, purely for the fact that it means the sheath can be cleaned as well. With a leather sheath you've got to be more careful that you don't impart bacteria and stuff into the sheath. But apart from that, and for the price, I don't think you can fault this knife really. Battening, I'm going to batten through this piece of wood. Obviously there's a big knot here, so if we get stuck at the bottom, I'll stop the video, or I'll stop there. But just to show you that it battens really, really well. Yeah, so there's no problem using the knife for battening. It goes through the wood like the proverbial knife. Through butter. And partly I think this is due to the fact that the convex edge is a bit like an axe edge, so it's acting in a wedging motion as it goes through, so it's an ideal knife for battening. Again, we saw the Peasant knife, but I'll show you, I'll demonstrate feather sticking with this knife as well, just to give you an idea of how it works. And again, just coming down one plane, draw the knife towards myself, and I'll start bringing up. Fantastic little fine curls. Now, as I said before, if we're doing this over the open fire, the idea is that we carve our feathers over our fireplace, so that any ones that drop off, and they will drop off, go into the fireplace. What I'm trying to do here is just make them as really, really fine as I can, just to show you how well this will feather. Yeah, obviously when you're carving feathers normally you make slightly larger ones, it's a slightly more chunky process, but you see that it will carve really, really fine feathers, and they're gonna light from the smallest of matches, the smallest of flames. If you carve them fine enough with a feather stick, you can even light them with a fire still. Yeah, so really, really fine curls for feathers. And again, when we need to light a fire, and this is the technique we're using because everything else is wet, the finer we can make the feathers, the easier they'll be to light. Okay, so good for carving. So as I say, this type of knife, it's a good general purpose knife. It does what it says on the tin. It's a general purpose knife. It's good for butchering, it's good for carving a Sunday roast, it's good for carving wood. It's a good quality knife. If I was going to go on an expedition, or if I were going to go and live in the wilderness for a long period, I think this would be the knife I would choose. And I would wear it on my belt. I'd possibly get or adapt the sheath slightly, make it a dangler sheath, because the sheath lets it down to a degree. Most of the time in the UK, the knife sits in the sheath in my pack, so it's not a problem. If I was going to wear it on my belt, you can see there's the belt loop, which would keep it quite high up. I think I prefer it as a dangler, but even to adapt that into a dangler wouldn't take much. Put a ring through there, or a leather lace, a bit of paracord, and put a loop onto it so it dangles, and you're sorted. Slightly too big for a neck sheath, or a neck knife, but if I was going to live in the wilderness, I'd definitely go with this one. As it is, this now is my permanent companion. I really, really, really like this knife. For £14 or £15, whatever they cost, I don't think I can afford it. It does everything I need a knife to do. So that's the Svord Peasant and the Svord general purpose utility knife. two really good knives.